Is 5 Live Boxing.
Anthony Joshua is back at the O2 on Saturday night. He fights late replacement Robert Helenius. He loves the O2. He won his first world title at the venue. I sit down with Joshua. I also speak to Derek James, the American trainer who will be in his corner on Saturday night. It's a big fight. It's a big fight week. It's a big fight show. I'm Steve Bunce and this is 5 Live Boxing. And you find me at a plush hotel in the city of London in a library, a lovely library, sitting opposite Anthony Joshua. First of all, AJ, thanks. It's a nice room, this.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure where to start. I'll tell you where I'm going to start.
Yep.
It's Saturday afternoon, about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe it was a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
You find out you're not fighting Dillian on Saturday. What's your first thought, second thought, and third thought that goes through your head?
I was just like, damn, like, here we go again. Then it's like, what are we going to do? Either cancel the show or we're going to move on with the show. And then I'm like, do I want to take this risk because late replacements aren't good for anyone?
Yeah.
So
We'll come to that in a moment.
exactly. So I'm thinking, damn, what do I do in this situation? And then the fourth thing, I know you didn't ask, but
Go on, give
the
me four.
fourth one was just like the undercard and everyone that's involved in the show. I didn't want to let them down, right? So I was thinking, man, as a headliner, I got a responsibility. So yeah, they went out and they had to source an opponent, credible opponent, because obviously it's off pay-per-view now as well, which is probably beneficial for other people. And I think the undercard still brilliant.
Probably the best. It's probably the best non-pay-per-view bill you've been on.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say.
Not good for me though, because obviously
Yeah, it hits you in the pocket. I
it's
appreciate
hit
that,
me
son. Yeah.
massively. Yes, and I actually said, well, are they going to get hit as well?
Yeah.
And they actually don't get hit. So lucky for them.
Is that right?
Yeah, because
I'm not pushing you on this. Is that right, really?
yeah.
Wow.
I think if something like the fight date has to move
Yeah.
for the purses to change, but the fight date's still the same, the show still goes on, so the contracts still remain the same.
So you take the hit?
I take the hit, yeah.
Well, that's going some.
Yeah, I know.
All right, now, I know you haven't got this bit of paper in your pocket, but you must have scribbled down a couple of names that you thought that will work. So we're talking about 1 p.m., 2 p.m. on Saturday. Did you scribble them down, or were they in your head? Or did you just say, you know what, let the boys do it?
I thought Ruiz would have been a good one.
Andy Ruiz?
Yeah, Andy Ruiz would have been a good one. But it was
Andy,
like,
let me just come over there and slap you with a microphone. we've been down the Andy Ruiz route before.
yeah, but it's only a fight, man. Like okay, marketing and all this stuff, and it's the Andy Ruiz. Yeah, it's a big deal for people. But what's the worst thing I can lose? Okay, what's next? Like that's what I just thought. But it's good for the public to save the show. But then where it comes to is like for an Andy Ruiz fight, if I was to fight him on 5 days notice versus not even like preparation wise, but 5 days notice. Marketing wise versus 3 months build up, the trilogy, back again, Anthony Joshua.
What a great night that would be.
Exactly. So that was like, look, we need more time to build a fight like Andy Ruiz because the finances that he would think are on the table aren't on the table because they don't have time to build this type of fight. So we had to get people that are more realistic. It's not on pay-per-view anymore.
And we're a business.
That's where the business hat came on.
You can lose money, but you can't absolutely lose money.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure. I mean, I can't quite work out whether Andy Ruiz was even in the was he in the hat? Did people talk to him? Do you know that? I'm not prying. If you know, tell me. If you don't tell me.
No, it was me. It was me who asked the question.
No. But so did you ask them for Andy Ruiz?
My team. I was
And
like, what do you think?
What did they say to you without swearing?
They were just going to check everyone. They just checked everyone, really. Who else was there? I think there was a few other people. Like Sanchez, a Jagba.
Big friend. A Jagba, Effie, a Jagba,
yeah. Just to ask a question. To ask a question, see where they're at. But I don't know if it all went ahead. But I think in terms of finances, Helenius was realistic. He just come off a win Saturday.
Yeah.
He was fit. And I like what he said at the press conference table. He wouldn't be here if he didn't think he could win.
Yeah. Well, he looks good. He looks in good nick.
He is in good nick.
He said he had a bad few months last week, and then he put his life back in order, started running, and got him, lost some weight. And the last 4 or 5 months he's been in, or 6 months he's been in the shape he's been in. And I look at him, he's in good nick, isn't he?
Yeah, I think obviously his last fight with Wilder I think it just,
it shocked him.
Yeah, I think it did.
You know what he told me about that fight?
Tell
Because
me.
he makes no excuses. He's a big boy. We're all big boys. What he told me about that fight was quite simple. He said all the hundreds of rounds of sparring he's done with Wilder, Wilder's always coming at him. Wilder can only hurt you if he comes at you.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, suddenly in that fight, he was on his back foot.
Yeah.
How could he hurt me? He's on his back foot.
Yeah.
So there wasn't an
walked
excuse.
into the shot.
Walked into the shot. Yeah.
So I was listening to an interview with Malik Scott, and he said they had a game plan where they were going to draw Hellenius towards them and catch him on the counter.
Yeah. Because he goes down throwing a shot.
Boxing's all strategic, all strategy.
We know that.
All strategy, right? So, yeah, that's what Malik Scott said about the
So
fight
on the
as well.
subject of strategy, you've been in and
Preparing
around Derek
for-
James now. You've been, and you know, the last fight, there was a lot more thinking involved. I liked it. Some you divided people.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. There were some good parts.
Yeah, I think there were some good parts. I don't think you can dismiss the last fight. I think there was enough good parts there, and also I think you were thinking in that fight, going through things. Looked like you were running things through.
Yeah.
your head. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like a natural, like my brain as a computer knows how to fight, but I was rebooting that computer again. You know, I've gone for a whole
Every now and
reboot.
again.
Yeah. The old broadband disconnecting and rewiring again. But now we've upgraded our broadband.
So they say. It's notorious, the O2, for terrible broadband, by the way. You can't get a reception at ringside.
Don't worry, I told you. We upgraded it now. We upgraded that now. Yeah.
Quite seriously, you're dealing with a different man, a man
Yes,
that's
sir.
3 or 4 inches taller
Yes.
than
Dillian.
Dillian White.
Yeah.
But then you've taken a bit of the emotion out of it with the Dillian White thing, a bit of the personal stuff out of it. But it's still a guy who's in good nick, who's young enough, who is still does have ambitions.
Yeah.
And he's a different type of man. So what sort of preparation have you had in the short few days since it was announced?
So, like, in terms of preparation, how different? I reckon I would have probably got in maybe 1 or 2 different sparring partners for the preparation for like Hellenius. Because Dylan, he is like shorter, but people underestimate. He's got long levers, you know. He's got long arms.
Yeah.
So he's got long arms. So in terms of sparring, I would have got in maybe 1 or 2 different sparring partners. But other than that, it is what it is. But I just have to watch Hellenius now and study him a bit more. So I just kind of now. Obviously, I've got some people that do great film study, so they've done a report on him already, and now it's just ingraining it in the back of my mind and just understanding his pattern.
So might you watch, 10 hours of Hellenius or 5 hours of Hellenius before the first belt?
Yeah. So I'd watch like his habits, his strengths, and then I'll kind of do my own research on him, like current form versus new form, and you kind of try to understand his punch patterns and selection.
And will you do that with Derek James, or Derek by your side, or would that be something you do surrounded by your team?
Both. So Derek kind of comes up with his own game plan as well. Then the film study guy will send us over a video. We'll watch it together, and then I'll do my own film study as well. Like when I'm in my bedroom chilling or at the dinner table, I'll be just watching. Prop my phone up and put on YouTube and watch him.
I'm going to talk to Derek in a moment, but I'm interested to get your take on how he's been since the Errol Spence loss, because that's a fighter like you. He's invested more time in him, but he invests time. Derek does get involved. He's not a mercenary who stands on the outside.
Do you know what? He's not. You know, and he
does get involved, doesn't
he? He knows Errol like since the amateurs.
Absolutely.
That's a friend as well.
Yeah.
And Derek has that character about him. Like he's a trainer, but he's a cool guy as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's been very professional about the matter.
Good.
Very professional about the matter, which is good. That's what I've seen so far, but I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But I think he's been very professional about the matter, to be fair.
And you, AJ, you're back at the O2. It's like a home from home, and it does feel like, a really big event. You know, irrespective of Dillian being gone, it still feels like a proper O2 night, a classic AJ night. You haven't fought there for about 17 years, it seems. That's how I look at it. It's like it seems forever ago when we had those knockout nights. You know what I mean?
I'm nervous. I'm pumped. I want to perform. I want to get a victory. I need to just get the ball rolling again.
You feel that way?
Yeah, man.
And does that mean we might see a slightly different AJ, a slightly more,
Do you know what it is?
slightly more
I need
aggressive
to get my
AJ?
hand used to hitting someone so hard that their jawbone vibrates through my whole forearm, bicep, and shoulder. Yeah. Like that's the type of.
That's the feeling you want to get back to.
Yeah, when you got the gloves on and you hit them and it's like boom, and you just feel it vibrating through your whole body, and you just get stronger, and you just like you can drop someone, and you got to learn how to like take them out. You got to follow up your combinations, it's that type of stuff. Yeah, I got to get back on that gravy train.
And then after this one, and I hate to throw it forward, but after this one, there's a couple of big things hopefully might come together next year. I mean, hopefully we'll get Deontay Wilder. Hopefully, who knows?
See.
Who knows?
We
There's all
shall
sorts
see.
of. So we've got some good stuff coming.
Yeah. Boxing, despite all the issues,
Yeah.
there's some good stuff that's still happening in boxing. And as you said, like this weekend, not only my fight, the undercard, phenomenal. I honestly think it's, as you mentioned, it's one of the best undercards that are non-pay-per-view. So it's worked out for the viewers at home.
Now, I just want to point out something that you pointed out to me. There's a guy who's impersonating me and impersonating you.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got the video today.
your voice is not so good, okay, in the impersonation. He does me quite well. But what he does brilliantly is he does your actions, and you've not done any of the actions. I pointed it out to you. You've not thrown any punches.
I'm going to hit him with an uppercut, right?
That's better. Generally,
I'm going to hit him with a left hook.
The reason I'm sitting across this table is when we did the last interview, you nearly let me spark out with 2 shots.
I'm saving them for Elenius. This time round, I'm saving them.
Listen, I've got to call it off, man, because I'm being told by everybody here and tapped on the shoulder.
Really good to see you, though,
But yeah, it's good to see you, bro, and I'll see you very soon, eh?
Yes, sir. Couple of days.
So that's AJ, Anthony Joshua, in good form, in good mood, back at the O2, back in London, and the sun's out. Hey, it's almost too good to be true. Now, the man that AJ's been working with, and we didn't speak to him earlier this year, is Derek James. Derek, welcome. Thanks for sitting down with me. I know you're a hungry man. I don't like to come between a fighter and a trainer and his food. The food has been ordered. Right. I'll let people know what he's ordered. It's a lovely meal of fish. Derek, once you found out it wasn't the original opponent, Dillian Whyte, did you have reservations about just going forward with the fight, irrespective of who was in the other corner?
No, I didn't. Because I know the promotion as a whole, Matchroom, it's a grand promotion, so they're going to be able to get somebody else in. But at the same time, it was a bit of letdown. You think about training for someone for like three months, and then finally at the end of the last week before the fight, something like this happens. It's part of the boxing, but at the same time, it's like you just think about it and keep it moving.
And of course, there obviously are differences between the way Dillian Whyte fights and the way Robert Helenius fights. But at least Helenius isn't a southpaw, which I'm assuming wouldn't have been acceptable. And I'd like to think it wouldn't have been acceptable. But how much adjustment and changing can you do in the, basically Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Well, I think that the adjustment comes from basically about the height and kind of like the punch of that you're
where
punching.
you're throwing your punches.
Oh yeah. With that, and once you do that, which I just adjusted it so he can see that I'm actually in keen tune with what he needs to be doing. And so, he can make those adjustments easier.
Because Robert is at least 4 inches, maybe 5 inches taller. But he also, also stands tall.
I mean, even when I saw him...
No, taller than Dillian, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
But he also stands tall.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah, he stands tall.
And which is, that part is like... It's all about AJ and I just working on it, just constantly working on it. We started yesterday. We'll go today, and we'll keep it working throughout the week. So by the night of the fight, it probably won't be an issue.
And of course, this has happened a couple of times to AJ in the past. It happened with Pulev when he brought in Takam, and it happened obviously famously with Gerald Miller when Andy Ruiz came in. So you weren't around for those. But have you seen any dip in AJ's concentration or anything? Because you're an experienced man, and I know you like to be close to your fighters. Have you seen anything different? Anything at all?
Well, I have a question for you.
Go on.
So when he was supposed to fight, you said the second one.
Gerald Miller, when he was Big Baby Miller. But
Miller.
The first one was
Andy Ruiz was the replacement?
Andy Ruiz was the replacement.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, but it was a bit more notice, about 4 or 5 weeks. But, and that was and that's a big difference. Big difference, in the way, I mean, Ruiz is almost a unique heavyweight,
definitely.
Size. And I just wondered if you'd seen something, because I think AJ, and I've known him for about 15 years now.
Right.
I think AJ is a different man now than he was a year ago or 2 years ago. He's like, somehow he's starting to mature. I know it seems odd because he's in his 30s, but he seems like he's a different man.
Well, it's like this. All men are different, as we know. But I think that when you feel like you're getting what you should have been getting before, and that's not to say to bash anybody previously, but I think that what he's asking me to be and who's asking me to be, I am that individual. Meaning that I'm teaching him this, I'm teaching him that, and like he actually understands it. So I think that maybe that's like an assurance in a sense, or a level of comfort in the sense that I'm going to make sure that he understands what I want him to do. And I think that I asked him a couple questions yesterday, and I asked him, well, what is it that I want? And this is my first time ever doing this. I said, to any of my fighters. I said, so what is it that I want you to do? Because I need him to understand, right?
So he can tell you.
And he can tell me. So, and if you're not doing it, then you know you should be doing what you should be doing. So the thing about it is, it's so short notice, but I need to make sure that he understands what I need him to do and what everything that I'm asking of him.
And did he get the right answer?
Oh, yeah, he did. He did.
That's
Right.
good.
Right. And I've never done it with any of the other fighters that I work with, but I just needed, like, this is something that's, in a sense, drastic, right? Just a change in 4 or 5 days. You're like, okay, I got to do this. So I was like, so what do I need you to do? So why am I asking you this? Because even though I told him what am I need him doing, then I said, why am I asking you this? So that's a whole another question. And he got all the right answers.
Because you've had a busy period, obviously. Right. You had a big build up into the Errol Spence, Terence Crawford fight, where AJ was with you, and then of course it's been 2 weeks, 2 weeks since then. And how have you been? I'll ask you, how have you been? Because you Errol is a great fighter. He lost that fight. You're part of the camp. And everyone, we all feel, all of you guys feel it in camp. How have you been, Derek?
I've been okay. This is my third fight in 27 days.
Yeah, which is a lot for a trainer of your style.
My third main event fighter in 27 days, but it's like, unfortunate, I'm not, put it like this, sometimes losing is a part of life. You just don't want to make it a habit.
Absolutely.
So what's happened is, it has happened, but I have not made it a habit. So, it's unfortunate. And I just have to keep building and keep, helping my guys. And I really focus on AJ, and then after this, focus on Jamel, then focus on Ryan. So it's like you just keep to make sure you give everybody what they need, opposed to they never train at the same time. But some reason people think that
they're all in the same gym at the same time, like an amateur club. 7 o'clock, leave at 8.
No. They come in 2 hours after, it's like stacked. 2 hours.
Some of them don't even see each other.
They don't see each other at all. So most of them. Only time they see each other because AJ does extra stuff afterwards or Errol is doing extra stuff afterwards. Other than that, they will never see each other.
As you say, most people just assume you've got some sort of community gym where they come in for 2 hours each day.
People think that I don't have time for the guys. Like, no, every time this guy's in the gym, I'm not talking to the other guy when this other guy's in the gym.
One-on-one.
Right, because I'm not interacting with him. Like, no, it's all about you. I want you to feel it. I want you to know it because it's all about you.
And this is the last time you were here, a couple of months ago, it was a big enough fight. And even though this is a replacement, this still feels like a big event. It's the O2. It's a phenomenal venue. And there just seems to be a lot more pressure, a lot more press and a lot more pressure. Are you feeling that a little bit? Not pressure on you, but are you sensing that, this is a bit bigger now? I get the feeling now.
Well, I think that it's consistent, right? With what I believe UK boxing to be. And British boxing to be, and it's been very consistent. I mean, now you think about coming from that, like the biggest fight in the last 20 years in boxing, and then coming to this, it's still big. Because when I walked in the room, I was like, because I was.
This is at a press conference when you walked in.
I didn't really know what to expect, right? I'm like, man, this is big.
It's an event, brother.
It's right. The thing about it is, the people who are customers showing up, they show up. So he's going to show up, I'm going to show up, and we're going to go out and do what we do best.
David, let me ask you this. I know that the men train at different times.
Right.
There's a bit of crossover if they're literally in the car park or whatever. But how do you put them in different compartments in your head? I mean, or do you keep copious notes? Do you write a lot down?
Yeah, right.
Or do you keep the whole thing? You can't keep the whole thing in your head, surely.
No. But what happens is that I'm able to compartmentalize everything, right? But at the same time, I make notes when I'm watching the fight of an opponent. I make notes on what they do and how to combat what they do or to take away what they do. So I'll make notes. If you look at my phone, it's like notes about what AJ should be doing to Derek Chisora. Not Chisora, but
whoever's that? Yeah.
The fighter before.
Yeah.
And Dillian White. And then now it's like, so what he does, what now Robert Helenius does. So it's like you make notes and then you tell them. That's how I memorize it. Because if I write it down, I memorize it, and I go in and I just work with them on it.
And final question, Derek, and I like to always end on something a bit more light-hearted. When was the last time you had a holiday? When was the last time you rocked up somewhere on a beach, took your phone, turned your phone off, got out there with your family, having a relax, having a beer at a bar or a vegetarian juice, whatever it is? When was the last time, Derek? Look, you need a holiday, brother.
The last time I had a holiday was, I don't remember. But really about like, probably like in a year or so, year and a half or so.
Since then, it's just been non-stop.
And listen, when I leave here, I have to fly straight to New York to do the press conference for Charlo Canelo.
Lucky that's not a big fight.
Well, look, it's not right. So listen, they called me yesterday. They said, "Well, you have to go to New York." I'm like, "For what?" It's like, "Well, the press conference." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, I said, "Oh," he said, "We moved the date for you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, yes, we are."
Derek, it's been a pleasure talking to you and
Thank
welcome.
you.
And in fact, you've been a great addition to everything we've done. Thanks so much for your
Thank
time.
you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Hear them do their thing in the Premier League. Then hear what they have to say on BBC Sounds. Subscribe to the Players channel and get inside the footballing minds of Premier League icons. From the Footballers Football podcast.
I'm getting stick for arguing with one of their players, and that's a player that they was booing themselves not too long ago. So
To Football First with Troy Deeney and Jermaine Defoe.
I just laughed. I went, don't worry, you'll play me next week.
And much more to come as we head into the new season. Real football talk straight from the players. The Players channel. Listen on BBC Sounds.
So I'm joined now by Eddie Hearn, the promoter. And Eddie, before I go any further, I've got to clear up one thing. When did Frank Smith actually speak to Robert Smith? I've got to clear it up.
I mean, I can't believe we're discussing it publicly. But more importantly, Bunsey, what is a disc jockey doing speaking to Robert Smith about Dillian White's drug test? I mean, when people talk about agendas, I don't know what more I have to say. But anyway, on we go.
Let's move on from that, shall we?
We acted, I hope this time, how everybody would expect us to. We learned a huge amount from the Conor Benn situation. There's still a lot to overcome. The two were very different. But on we go for Saturday night.
And by the way, it's really odd. I didn't think today would feel as big as it felt. I've been a bit overwhelmed by it all. I spoke to Elenius. He's in great form. AJ's in great form. It feels like a big fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, you walk in here. I mean, we're in the Pan Pacific Hotel. Big screens everywhere. It was packed with media. And it's AJ Fight Week, and we nearly weren't here. And we were here because AJ wanted to fight. He's put 12 weeks of hard work in. I think he looks physically and mentally in a great place. Yeah. I think this is a tricky fight. I think there's jeopardy in this fight. I think Helenius is a big lump. He's 6'9". He can whack a little bit. He'll try to win. But I also think it's a style that AJ can look good against, can prepare for Deontay Wilder with. But I keep saying that, and then I think back to the last time a fighter failed a drugs test and was pulled out of an Anthony Joshua fight, and it was Jarrell Miller.
Yes.
The replacement was Andy Ruiz. And that whole fight week, the only thing we were doing was talking about Deontay Wilder.
Absolutely.
And we're here again. So switch on and make sure you get the win on Saturday night.
When you talked to AJ before that fight, when Miller failed his test, so it was Ruiz coming in, compared to how he's been in the build-up to this fight, is there a difference in him?
Yeah, totally different.
Totally different man.
Medically and physically, he just wasn't himself going into that Ruiz fight. But, he had been like that for a couple of fights, and he solved that. This now, the reason that I like where he's at now is just the belief in Derek James, the way they're gelling together, the confidence he has in him. Where AJ boxing to instructions is brilliant, especially instructions that he believes in. Do you know what I mean? And now he's got that relationship with Derek James where he's ready to fight. He's in great spirits. And again, a lot of pressure because it's a little bit of a no-win situation in this fight. But let's see how good he looks, and hopefully he can make a statement ahead of the Wilder fight.
It's interesting. I spoke to Derek James, and he was blown away let's explain what happens at these press conferences. The main runners and riders, the trainers and the fighters, they come in and they're in a lift. They go upstairs. They're in a private room. They don't get a feel for it. They suddenly walk through the door. Derek James, he swore he couldn't believe it when he walked in. He was stunned by how big, as you said, how big an event is. And I like what they're doing. And Derek said something to me in the ring last time AJ fought. he said, no, this is a work in progress. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to be a few fights. I like the idea that they've got a long-term game plan.
But already you can see the improvements, you can see the mindset, and you can see how happy AJ is, and that's the key. Like he's won the belts, he's made the money. You've got to enjoy what you do. And he's enjoying himself out there. He's enjoying himself with Derek James. He really wanted that Dillian White fight. But, now he's got to just refresh, reset, and do a job on Hellenius on Saturday.
And finally, Eddie, because you've only done about 9 hours of interviews today, 12. I mean, this might be your record for work. I've watched you today for 5 hours.
I've got to go and do a load more.
I appreciate you having. Look, finally, talking to AJ, and I thought he was joking. He did want Andy Ruiz, didn't he?
He wanted honestly, his instruction to the team was anybody. But, the zone make the decision, take it off pay-per-view, make it available to subscribers. The budget changed a little bit. AJ takes a pay cut. But, again, it's more about the statement, not wasting 12 weeks of work and going out and showing that he's still an elite heavyweight. And I believe he'll do that on Saturday.
And slightly off track, no, don't worry, it's not a comedy question. Great that Conor McGregor's back involved with his forged Irish style.
He's sponsoring the event. He'll be ringside on Saturday night. He'll be jumping up and down in my ear. He absolutely loves it, and always a great addition. We'll see the Mac on Saturday night.
The Mac will be back. And just a final question. You mentioned there a couple of times the potential Wilder fight, something that we've been talking about now for two or 3 months. That won't be this year, will it?
No.
Even if it happens, it will be in February or so next
January
year.
it looks like. And the Saudi representatives are flying in for the fight to hopefully conclude the deal, subject to victory for AJ. So everything crossed.
What a big week it's turned into. Eddie, thanks so much for your time. That's Eddie Hearn, and he genuinely is off to do some more interviews. We've heard from an awful lot of people today, and it's worked out perfectly. Derek James, the trainer, Hearn, obviously, and AJ in sparkling form. On tomorrow's pod, we'll hear from Hellenius, the Viking, the Nordic Warrior, the Nordic Nightmare. Take your pick of nicknames. All you need to know is he'll be the man in the opposite corner on Saturday when AJ comes out at the O2. Joshua and Hellenius, live on 5 Live from 10 p.m. on Saturday. I know I say this all the time, but what a time to be a boxing fan. I'm Steve Bunce, and this has been 5 Live Boxing.